What's up? This is Ty 1000 Finest. I'm here to talk about Marco the Phoenix. The thing about Marco the Phoenix that I want to talk about is how strong he is, because I think it's a misunderstanding about how strong Marco actually is. And now, I am one of the people who started the whole Jack is stronger than Marco thing, but what I want to say is that just because I feel like a character is stronger than another character doesn't mean that the character I'm saying is stronger than, that doesn't make no sense. What I'm trying to say is that, like, just because I think Jack is stronger than Marco does not mean that I mean that Marco's a scrub, because Marco's very strong. And I'm going to start with the example of him being very strong about Marco versus Kizaru. So I feel like Marco is stronger than Kizaru. When in the fight that Marco had against Kizaru at Marineford, we see them exchanging blows. Now, at first, Kizaru aimed his attack at Whitebeard. He was not aiming his attack at Marco. So this was an attack he aimed at a Yonko. And while aiming his attack at a Yonko, Marco came and stepped in, took all the damage. Marco didn't even bother to block. He just took the damage. Everyone was like, how is that happening? Like, who is that? And that's when you find out, it's Marco the Phoenix or whatever like that. He's introduced. And to take Kizaru's attacks head on, that's beast right there. That means that pretty much Kizaru couldn't even hurt him, because we seen Marco just not even bother to block his attacks. Like, he wasn't scared of his attacks whatsoever. His attacks wasn't phasing him. And Marco even goes to tell Kizaru, that works. And Kizaru goes, don't say that works to make me feel good. So then they finish fighting or whatever like that. Now, Marco lands a kick on Kizaru. And Kizaru goes, that works. And then Marco's like, no, it doesn't. And Marco gets mad. Now, what I want to talk about this is that for the people that try to say the Admirals are not trying, is that even if you want to say that Admirals was not trying, even if you're trying to say that Kizaru was not trying, obviously Marco wasn't trying to just take Kizaru's attack without blocking. He can't be trying if he was going to do that. The smarter way would have been to block to attack to reduce the damage even more. So just the fact that Marco took Kizaru's attack head on without blocking shows that he wasn't trying either. And he didn't take Kizaru as much of a threat. Now, besides that, he even trolled Kizaru and said that his attack worked when it didn't work. So, Marco's joking around. So now when Marco kicked Kizaru was trolling back, like, that worked. Marco's like, no, it didn't. Marco gets mad and he sends Kizaru flying. And Kizaru gets kicked into the wall, a big explosion or whatever like that. He sent them flying, not even a named attack. So it's not like Marco was like, Blazing Phoenix kick. Marco just did a regular kick and it sent Kizaru flying into the wall. And I feel like for people that say Marco can't beat Kizaru, it's like, where? That whole fight, Marco had the advantage. It's like Kizaru didn't have the advantage in that fight at all. So it's like, if Kizaru was going to win the fight, when was that supposed to happen? Because from what I seen, Marco was clearly winning that fight and he clearly had the advantage. Now, some say that Kizaru got up and brushed himself off. Now, he was still hurt. Don't get the wrong idea about that. But he wasn't hurt to the extent that he was breathing heavy or that it took a lot of damage or whatever like that. But that was still Marco got the first blow in, while Kizaru had Kizaru got blows in, but Marco recovered from them. So what I'm going to continue to say is that the only time in that fight that Kizaru got the upper hand against Marco was when Whitebeard got stabbed by Squardo. When that happened, a lot of Whitebeard commanders lost their focus because they focused on Whitebeard health at the moment instead of their own health or instead of their own safety at the moment. And that's when a lot of admirals like Kizaru took advantage of the situation. Even Aokiji took advantage of that situation when he froze Diamond Jozu's arm and broke it. So Kizaru even goes on to tell Marco, the battle is over once you let your guard down, even for a second. And once that happens, he blasts Marco twice through his stomach. And he hurts Marco. So Marco pays it no mind, and Marco still tries to go, but Kizaru blasts him again, a third time. And Kizaru even says something about it, like, you've been hit 3 times. But Marco continues to run and use his regeneration powers. And Kizaru even says, I suppose it's not that easy. Now, here's the part that people seem to forget, or the part that people seem to pay no mind to. He talks to somebody, it's a Viceadmiral. I forget the Viceadmiral name, but it's the Viceadmiral with a bunch of arms. He just grabs Marco up with all his arms or whatever like that. And he puts the sea stone cuffs on Marco. And then Kizaru shoots him 2 more times. Now, the crazy thing about that, Marco gets sent to the ground, but Marco's not down for the count though. But it's like, okay, that's Kizaru beating Marco, but he needed help from a Viceadmiral to do so. And that's what no one seems to point out. Everybody wants to make it seem like Kizaru can just 1v1 Marco, which I don't think he can, because in the earlier clash we seen Marco clearly had the advantage that whole fight. It was only after the white bear distraction. So it's like, you know, it takes for Marco to be distracted for Kizaru to win, and it even takes the help of a Viceadmiral for Kizaru to win. But the crazy thing is that I feel like even if Marco's distracted, even if Kizaru has a Viceadmiral, he's still not beating Marco. Marco would probably beat the Viceadmiral and Kizaru at the same time. What had to happen for Marco to be defeated by Kizaru was that not only did it have to be Kizaru and a Viceadmiral, it had to be Kizaru, a Viceadmiral, and the Viceadmiral even had to put sea stone cuffs on Marco. So that took his double fruit powers away. That's the only reason Kizaru was able to win in that situation. So that was a 2v1, and it was even a 2v1 with Marco power stripped. How is that being stronger? That's not being stronger. Yo, Marco's way stronger than Kizaru from what I could tell, or whatever like that. And for everybody that want to be like, Marco went and beat Kizaru and the Viceadmiral at the same time, hold up. We seen Sabo wreck Bastille, if that's his name, like it was nothing. He took him out the picture like, yo, like, get out of here, or whatever like that. So I'm pretty sure Marco could have took that Viceadmiral with the hands out pretty fast too. And it just would have been Marco versus Kizaru. And I'm pretty sure Marco could have had beaten Kizaru. And here's the thing. Again, like I said earlier in the video, just because I think a character can be another character does not mean that I think those characters are trash. I know that the Admirals are not trash, but I feel like Marco's stronger than Kizaru. And you know, I feel like the Admirals are very overrated. And I feel like a lot of people, they get biased when it comes to the Admirals. They seem to, if an Admiral is ever losing, they always seem to say they're not trying. Or they seem to bring up, if it's Aokiji, they seem to bring up the 10-day fight with Akainu, and then they're like, oh, can this character last 10 days with Akainu? But that's besides the point. If you see an Admiral fighting somebody or clashing with somebody and the Admiral is losing, clearly they're losing, you know what I mean? You can't bring up the they're not trying, because in the fight with Marco, we could see that they both wasn't trying or whatever like that. So all I'm trying to do is give unbiased opinions on the fights that I've seen and let y'all know about characters who I think are stronger than other characters who people don't agree with because they're Admirals or something like that. So, you know, I'll continue this and I'll make another video. This is Ty, 1000 Finest. Peace. And shout out to everybody that told me to make a One Piece video. So this is my first video. I hope I get good feedback. I hope y'all appreciate it. Leave y'all thoughts in the comment sections below. Thanks. And also subscribe if you didn't get a chance to. So one other thing that I want to talk about regarding Marco and his powers and like how amazing Marco is that a lot of people like Rob Lucci. Rob Lucci has some big fans. Now, I like the Rob Lucci fight. It was cool and everything, but you know, I'm kind of over that fight. You know, it happened, it's in the past. I'm looking for Luffy to fight stronger opponents, and I'm looking for better fights. I was more of a fan of the Enel fight thing. But you know, the same thing with Enel. Enel, some people think that his arc, I don't know, some people think his arc is overrated, some people think his arc is underrated. But about how beast Marco Powers is, we've seen a fight Luffy versus Rob Lucci, right? And people hype up Rob Lucci so much because he has all these fans. And I just be trying to say is that, like, if Rob Lucci was that strong and he just had a regular Zoan fruit, imagine how strong someone like X-Drake is with a ancient Zoan, or how strong someone like Jack is with an ancient Zoan, or someone like Marco who's a mythical Zoan. Imagine how strong they are if Rob Lucci had just a standard Zoan fruit. Now, the fight Luffy versus Rob Lucci, it was equal, and Rob Lucci almost won. You know, Luffy had that little bit of power at the end that Usopp gave him to take Rob Lucci out. Without that, Luffy probably would have lost. But the crazy thing, right? The scary thing about how strong Marco Fruit is that imagine if Rob Lucci had Marco's Phoenix powers, right? If Rob Lucci had Marco's Phoenix powers and he could just recover and he could just regenerate like that, Luffy would have never did almost any damage. Every single attack Luffy did, Rob Lucci would have just recovered from it. And Luffy would have had no damage to Rob Lucci, or he would have did very little damage to Rob Lucci. Oda did say it was a limit to how much the regeneration works, but Marco was regenerating so much, it seemed taxed or whatever like that. So that's a scary thing. Rob Lucci with regeneration powers, Luffy would have never did enough damage to take Rob Lucci out or whatever like that. So that's the scary thing about how strong Marco is. And the scary thing about how strong I think X Drake is and about how strong Jack is. I feel like, you know, these ancient Zoans and the mythical Zoans, they have extra powers that a regular Zoan might not just have. So like they have like regeneration powers, or they have like, you know, other powers that we didn't get to see yet because we haven't gotten to see an ancient Zoan in a battle yet. But, you know, I look forward to those battles, and peace. So I'm just going to leave you with that. Imagine how strong Rob Lucci would be if he had Marco regeneration powers, if Rob Lucci was a mythical Zoan. The other thing is that Marco's Phoenix fruit and the fruit that Rob Lucci had, Marco fruit can do everything that Rob Lucci fruit can do. You know, we've seen how strong Marco's fruit is when he kicked Kizaru and how strong his fruit is when he kicked Aokiji. So he would have the same attack and defense boost that Rob Lucci had. The other thing is that Marco's powers, Marco could fly where Rob Lucci can't fly. So imagine just like the advantage Rob Lucci would have had against Luffy in that fight. Luffy would have lost for sure in that fight. So that's the scary thing about Marco. Like, comment, subscribe, peace.